Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, here we are. We have another guest today. Super excited. Another episode, another fabulous guest. To tell you a little bit about him before we welcome him on, my guest today says growing up, he experienced a lot of life challenges, all leading to failing classes, fighting, being labeled, drug and alcohol abuse, foster homes, and programs for at-risk youth. But he turned his life around, and now his passion and work for over the past 20 years has been to mentor students and adults alike so they can overcome adversity to become the best versions of themselves and truly elevate their lives. So you guys are going to be in for a treat today. I'm super excited to get him on here and share his story. But before we do that, we must give a shout out to our sponsors. So today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photography. If you are a creator needing post-production, consultation, or promotion, Walt is your guy. Whether short films, YouTube films, photography work, or a new headshot, he can help you find a solution to match your needs. To learn more about Walt and his work, you want to go to photosbywalt.com. We also want to give a shout out to Chris Clow of Upbeat Media Production. If you are in need of turnkey special events production, Clow is your go-to. To learn more about him and his work, you want to go to upbeatmediapro.com. All right. That's always such a mouthful. I've got that thing almost memorized, but it's always such a mouthful. But anyways, we do want to welcome our guest to the show. Super excited. Jason Queen is a youth motivational speaker, a mindset coach. He delivers his motivational speeches at schools and shares what changed his life and how students can move forward too. He has inspired thousands of other students with his message by incorporating many of the same beliefs and principles that have helped him. When Jason's not speaking to students, he's helping ChristianPreneurs unlock their absolute kingdom potential, expand their reach, and scale their businesses so they can live the life they were created to live. So welcome to the show, Jason. I am super excited to have you here today.
Hey, I'm excited to be here too, Jennifer. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of what you got going on here. I mean, I think this is going to be a really great time together.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I love what you're doing and the inspiring. I really just like your story, and I don't even know all your story, but I just like your story. So, it's a good one. It's when we have stories like this where there's a lot of adversity, I always say there's two ways this can go. It can go down, or we can come out and we can rise and we can do something with the adversity. And you've certainly done that. So, walk us through this a little bit. Tell us a little bit about this journey for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll never forget the day that my parents walked out the doors, got in their car, and drove off, leaving me halfway across the country in the only program for at-risk youth that would even take me in. And I don't mind telling you, Jennifer, in that moment, like, I was lost, lonely, broken, and maybe like some of you out there listening to this, in that moment, I felt really stuck and I didn't see a way forward, like truly felt hopeless. Like I felt like life was a game and I lost, and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know where to go, and I really had given up on life. That is until this man stepped in and noticed me. And Jennifer, this is really where things started to shift for me. He said something to me that absolutely changed my life. He said, Jason, you are just a few choices away from a different life. Like if you'll just change your focus, because what you stare at, you steer towards. And right now you're focused on your past, your mistakes, your failures. And so you just keep repeating them. But if you could focus on who you want to be and where you want to go, you could get there. And then he said, Jason, if you'll just change some of your relationships, because the people closest to you impact your life the most. And right now, some of those relationships are toxic. Like they're holding you back, they're weighing you down, and they're keeping you from your destiny. But there are relationships that can and want to elevate you on your journey. And he said, if you'll just change direction, because you can't get to where you want to go on the same path that you've been on. But if you'll do those things, you could change your life. And Jennifer, that was the beginning of me taking this journey of one next step at a time, man. I went from being a dropout to a dream chaser. I went from feeling like below average to averaging up. I went from being hopelessly stuck to absolutely unstoppable. And that was the beginning of understanding there was so much more. And it didn't matter where I had come from. It didn't matter the labels I had. It didn't matter the things that I did. It didn't matter my family. None of that mattered. I could have whatever future I wanted. And man, that was just the beginning. Like And I started speaking at these schools and these churches and these events, and people started bringing me in and said, man, tell your story. We just need to hear your story. And I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea, Jennifer. I was like, okay, I don't know who wants to hear from me. I felt like a loser. I didn't know who I was yet. And so I started telling this story, and people's lives were being impacted and changed. And so I kept getting invited, and people's lives were like radically turning upside down. I remember I was at this church. I think it was either Toronto. I was on the East Coast at the time, and I was just sharing my story, and I didn't know what I was doing. And afterwards, two people came up to me who were addicted to heroin, and they were just like, man, I want to turn my life around. You've really inspired me. We had a married couple come up and say, man, I was getting ready to file for divorce, but we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna work to resolve this thing. I had a mayor of the town at the time who happened to be there. Strange, just came up to me and was like, man, what you just said inspired me, and I want to be better. Like, these people just started pouring in saying, man, your story is changing my life. And so then I just kept saying yes to opportunities. And so from the East Coast to the West Coast, schools, events, churches, camps, conferences, you name it, anywhere somebody wanted me to speak, I would just open my mouth and share my story. And what I learned over time is that my story was a story of hope. And there's a lot of people who don't have hope, and a lot of people who are looking for hope. Even people who on the outside, their life looks good. Deep down inside, when they're alone, they're struggling to find hope. And so, man, I've just tried to steward that well. I've just tried to take that message and get it to as many people as I can. And today, I spend my time speaking at schools. Specifically, I go to middle schools and high schools and talk with students and teachers and share my story, because I know during that time of life, all of the challenges and all of the obstacles those students face, all the obstacles I had to face, and how to overcome them so they can really step into their dream and what they want to do with their life.
Yeah, this is good, Jason. I think so much of what we do when we can speak, have the testimony to speak, it hits differently. It's kind of like, I always say, when I talk about like coaches and stuff, because you and I both are doing coaching, and I say I'm a strategist. I'm kind of a mindset coach too. And, there are a lot of coaches out there, right? There are a lot of people that do this kind of stuff. But I think when you have your own testimony, that you can now show people, this is what I went through. These are the steps I took to get out. Now let me help you take these steps and impact your life so you can make some different choices too. You said a lot of good things there. You started off in the very beginning when you were talking about this guy telling you about you being decisions away. And when in my podcast today, you'll see the final statement that I say where I talk about decisions, because I always believe we're a decision away from the next great thing, right? It's all about our choices that we make. And it's conversations that I have with my own kiddos when I say to them, the choices you make today impact your tomorrow. You've got to be careful, because sometimes the choices you make today don't even show up till 20 years later, right? They impact you. It could be from your health. It could be from anything. And so I think that is so good. But you also talked about this mentor and saying, how he changed your life, and also mentioning the fact that he said, look at the people that you're hanging around, because you and I both now know that our circle of influence has a huge impact on how we live our lives, right? You are like the people you hang around. And if you want to level up, you got to find people that you want to be leveling up to. Find those people, right? So
that's right.
I love your story. I love what you're doing. And I think it's great that you're able to get into these schools and talk to these young people, because they're still at a great age where they're impressionable and you can have an impact on them. Once they become adults, it's so hard to change people. Wouldn't you agree?
And Jennifer, you make a great point, because at the end of the day, when you talk about you're one decision away, we are the sum total of our decisions, but our decisions are the sum total of our thoughts. Yes. And when you're a student, you are in that place where you're starting to allow life experiences to shape and form your beliefs. Maybe you go home to a family that's abusive or violent, or you don't have a home, or there's addiction. Whatever your scenario is, when things happen in life, we often allow our experiences to shape beliefs that are not good and they're not healthy. And so then those beliefs, it's so wild. I read a statistic recently. The average person has 12 to 60,000 thoughts a day, which that's already a little bit bizarre. That's a lot of thoughts, right? Maybe some of us are on the low end of that. Maybe some of us are on the high end of that. Who knows? Doesn't matter.
Right.
But what got me was 80% of those thoughts are negative. 80%. That means that our thought life is dominated by negativity. dominated. How on earth can you be successful, step into your destiny, do the things you were created to do when 80% of your thoughts are dominated by negativity? And worse than that, 95% of those thoughts are on repeat, like a bad playlist. So like you took the worst of the worst, and that's what's going on. And you and I both know, as mindset coaches and strategists, like, you're programming your mind, you're rewiring neural pathways, you're creating filters through which you process everything else in life. So if that's jacked up, everything's jacked up. Like, you're going to miss opportunities. You're going to miss relationships. You're going to miss out on your potential. And you're going to just be dragged down this path of dark, isolated negativity. And it was crazy, Jennifer. So many people are there. And I'm just like, man, you don't have to stay there. Like, you don't. Right. Like, there's hope for you no matter what your situation is. Like, by 9th grade, I was kicked out of school, labeled oppositionally defiant disorder, removed from my home by the state, placed in foster care on the streets, and then eventually sent to this program. Like, I had a jacked up childhood. Okay. There wasn't anything pretty about the things that I went through. And a lot of it was self-induced. I made a lot of bad decisions. But the point is, people told me I would never live to be an adult. They told me that I was another statistic, that I wasn't going to accomplish anything, that I would never achieve anything. And by the time I was 21, I had lost 21 friends to drugs and other street violence and just terrible things, right? Like, all the darkness. And so to overcome all of that, like, I recognize God's hand on my life, but also, like, there's some things that people can do no matter where they are to take their life where it currently is to where they want it to go. And anybody can do it. And it starts with elevating your mindset all day long.
This is so good. So good, Jason. So true. And it's so interesting that you said that, because I have these conversations with my clients a lot, when they're hung up on circumstances and issues that are going on, whether it be relationship or work. And I always come back to the same thing. It starts with you. You can't control everything on the outside. The only thing you can do is elevate yourself. And you have to do that through your circle of influence, the content that you're putting in your brain. And just to your point about the 80% negative thoughts and 90, whatever that was, on repeat. I mean, look at our world. Look at what we live in, right? It's everywhere. That's why you got to stay out of the news. I mean, just stay off Twitter, because all of it, you just get engulfed in that. But the thing is this, what I talk about, and I'm sure you do the same thing, is it always comes back to, I say you have to implement habits into your life, and they have to be treated like vitamins, like your food, like they are essential to your well-being. Because when you work on those habits and you get committed to the process of those positive habits all the time, all of a sudden the outside gets easier, because you get more clarity on your decision making. You come up with more ideas, you set boundaries, all the things that you're worrying about become less problematic because you're coming from a different space. I mean, you think about it, and you know this, if we're looking at a problem, we could have the same problem and two people could look at it, the optimist and the person who's coming from the other space, right? Same problem. And the optimist may come up with 10 different solutions. The other person may not even come up with one, because they can't think past the problem itself. So it comes back to us. It comes back to the choices and doing just one small thing that we can do every day constructively to build ourselves up and elevate us. And so I think what you're saying is spot on. And that's why I said, if I know the first time we met, I was like, we're talking the same language, because those of us that get it, we get it. We all have different journeys. We have different stories as to why we arrive where we arrive, and I was telling someone recently that, like in my case, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 something years. I've had mentors from the time I was in my late 20s. All along, I've had them. Now, I didn't grow up having that in my life. I didn't grow up in a positive upbringing and all of that. Yeah. But interestingly enough, I always say the teacher arrives when the student's ready to learn. And when you get to a place where you realize whatever the reason is that it brings you to that place in your life. Mine was going through a health crisis that turned my life upside down and becoming suicidal from the condition itself. When you come to a place where I say you have a coming to Jesus moment, where you realize it is in your hands to change your life. It becomes your problem to change your life. No one else's, only and solely yours. That's when you can make radical change.
Absolutely. And I think that's why, like, starting with mindset is so important, because so many people have a victim mindset and they don't have enough self-confidence to take ownership over their life to realize, like, I actually can change this. And it's not only that it's possible, it's my responsibility to change it. Like, my destiny is waiting on me. Like, there are dreams calling out to me, and there are people's lives that are in the that are hanging in the middle, like waiting for me to say yes to my dreams. Like, you got to take ownership of your life. You know, the million people have had a million terrible things happen to them. But yeah, I mean, if I change the way I think about it, then I can shift everything else. When we coach people, one of the things that we talk about after we talk about like mindset, because that's just the beginning, right? It's foundational. You never graduate from the school of mindset. You always keep learning, growing, expanding. But we talk about like how important it is to evaluate relationships, because I think a lot of us, we allow people in and out of our lives haphazardly. You know, oh, it's my high school buddy. They're just, okay, but they're still sitting on your couch talking about the glory days, doing nothing with their life, and they're holding you back and keeping you from your destiny. Like, we allow family members, well, they're family. Okay, I get it. But like, you've got to have enough intentionality to understand your layers of association and where people belong in your life. You've got to define relationships, because if you don't, then you'll never get to this golden place we call the inner circle, where you invite the right people in and escort the wrong people out. Like, I always tell people, your inner circle is your biggest hurdle. If you can land that, everything else typically falls into place, because when you bring the right people there, they're going to elevate your mindset. They're going to introduce you to new strategy. They're going to show you new philosophy. Whatever it is, they're further and farther than you in life, relationships, health, business, whatever. That's what your inner circle should look like. And by default, it should automatically scale your life and your business just by having the right people in that setting. So if you're listening to this, you're like, man, yeah, my inner circle is probably not super healthy. Hey, listen, that's okay. That's why we're talking about it. It's a good time to take inventory and say, man, maybe I need to make some adjustments and invite some more successful people in that are further along in their health, their spirituality, right? Whatever it is that you're looking for, invite them in. And you don't go to those other people and say, you're out of my inner circle. Like, that's not what we're talking about either. Like, you're not like bullying people. And it's just, you understand internally so you can set better boundaries of where you spend your time, who you spend it with. Is this serving your dream or not? And it really allows you to get focused on the right things, because the truth is, you don't know what you don't know, and having the right inner circle opens your eyes to the things you need to know.
Yeah, that's so good. And you're right about the family and everything. I know the thing that kept coming to mind the whole time, and you said the word was boundaries. You have to get to a place where, because family you can't get rid of. You can't be like, hey, I'm elevating myself. You're still stuck in the place where you're not elevating yourself. Let me get rid of you. You just set the boundaries, right? Like, you recognize that that's where they are. They've chosen to be in that place. This is where you've chosen to be in the place, and you have to set some boundaries in the middle. But I'm with you. And I think this is one of the hardest things that, not even just in entrepreneur space, but I think in life for young people, is it's a conversation, Jason, that I have with my kids a lot. It's choose your friends wisely. Pick better people. Pick people that make you feel good about yourself when you're around them. Pick people that when you are around them, you want to level up. You want to be better. I swear, it is an ongoing conversation, because even as adults, this was something I had to share with somebody yesterday. In business, I had to really get to a place where I started looking at the people that I was partnering up in, collaborations, things where I was bringing people in, because I would get into these situations and I think it would be okay. And then I would get frustrated because there was just stuff that wasn't sitting well with me, my core values. And we would kind of be coasting. We're not moving. And I'm a high energy person. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I got like a lot of things I want to do before my time on this earth is over. Like I think the world is a big, big open ocean of things and ideas. And I love being around people that are idea thinkers and want to do more. And so you have to be selective about the company that you invite in, because it makes a difference where you are. And if you feel like you're miserable, you might want to start there, because that may be your biggest problem,
Yeah. Yeah. And, man, I hate to keep going back to this, but I mean, if you don't have the right mindset, you don't even understand the value of why this matters. You don't even get to this conversation. I can tell somebody all day, like, hey, this is important. But if they're not elevating their mindset, like, they're not even going to see the value in it or understand how it impacts their life. So they won't change it. So true. The second you start to understand the value of that, then you're like eager. Then you're like, oh man, like, I actually need to make those changes ASAP. I need to really be intentional about who am I aligning myself with, who's my partnership going to be with, because who you're becoming matters. It's more important than anything else you achieve and anything else you can attain. Like, this journey of who you're becoming along the way is the whole thing. This is it. Yeah. Becoming a free person, the best version of you in everything that you do. So, well, yeah.
I was going to say, and to your point on that, when you were saying if you're not the right mindset, then you can't see that. And you're so true. I think this goes really, because I talk about like these in my book, these 7 core habits that helped me get through this really dark time. And I still do very many of them. A lot of them I don't have to do full out like I used to do them. I joke one of them is gratitude. I know that you're totally on point with this, but when I first started doing a gratitude journal, I'd heard about it for years, never saw the point in it, but I laugh about this now because when I started, I was in such a dark place, but I also knew that it couldn't get any worse. I knew that if I did something, the only thing that could happen is I could get better. It couldn't get any worse than it was at that time for me because for me, it was a really dark place. And I think all of our dark places are relative to us. Yeah. But I laugh about it now because that journal, when it first started, was really silly. It was like, I'm grateful for my forks. I'm grateful for spoons. I'm grateful for toilet paper. I'm grateful for towels. I mean, this was the only thing in my mind at that time that I could pull together. Now I have since then, I don't have to do a gratitude journal anymore because you're probably like I am every day, even in a bad day, I can still relatively find something good out of the day. I've trained myself.
Absolutely.
And I think that takes time. But again, it goes back to, like when people come to you and they're like, I want to maybe learn how to put exercise into my platform. So let's talk about that subconscious. If you didn't grow up doing that, that is going to be, there's a lot of like revision belief we got to get around on that, right? Yep. And so maybe going straight for the exercise isn't the solution. Maybe we need to start with all these other minute things. Like, let's talk about like what you're reading. What do you put in your head every day? Let's start there. Like, what kind of content? Are you looking at the news when you first get up in the morning? Are you putting on NPR first thing in the morning? You know what I mean? Let's start there because it's these little small things that add up. And what happens is, like you said, when the mindset starts to change, all of a sudden you look and you go, exercising is really good for me. And you come up with a new idea to implement that into your life. All of a sudden, it's no longer a challenge. It becomes an accessory to who you are as a human being. And you get creative about how I'm going to do that. Maybe I don't need to pound the concrete 5 days a week running. Maybe I go take a dance class, or like one of my clients did join get this, a kickball team. Like I was so excited. Kickball? I haven't done kickball since I was a kid. I was kind of excited about that. But you see what awesome. I'm saying? You become more industrious and creative with your solutions when you start to work on yourself and do these small little changes.
Well, and not just the solutions, but if you've heard people say you got to know your why, I think a lot of people don't know their why. And the more you work on yourself, the more your why becomes clear. So then like the means doesn't matter. Like a lot of people make excuses and take a victim mentality because they haven't worked on themselves and they don't have a why. But once you work on yourself and you elevate your mindset and you know your why, the other things that are the hard work, it doesn't matter anymore because it's just the means to who you're becoming, right? It's just it's no longer like this big hurdle. I don't know how I'm going over it. It's not even that anymore because you've done the right work. So now the other stuff's actually light work. Right. So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, my goals, all these things are super difficult for me right now, man, I just want to invite you to go back and keep working on your mindset because the more that changes, then the means actually isn't even the conversation anymore. It's just implied. Like this is just necessary to get to where I need to go. So it's just part of the journey. And then you totally are able to get way beyond that because what happens is you start managing all those things and you're still missing out on your dreams. You're still in the weeds and focusing on like this thing and that obstacle and like, man, you're spending all that sideways mental energy when you were created for greatness. Like you were created to go out and do something amazing. So like work on yourself and that's nothing. And then you'll get there. It's like, oh man, what happened? And one of the things that you probably run into this too. One of the things I talk with entrepreneurs about. So a lot of this is like transferable between like students and teachers and then entrepreneurs. It's interesting for me. But on the entrepreneur side, I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with like shiny object syndrome and like, they're like, oh man, that's a great idea. And 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 this is it. And they have all these things. And then they have like a list of 1,000 things that they need to do. And they're all urgent and they're all important. And then they start spinning and they get overwhelmed. And if you're listening right now, you're overwhelmed. You're like, yeah, that's me.
It is a lot of entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Yes. And I get it. Because listen, you're an entrepreneur because you're a dreamer, because you're a visionary, because you were created to make an impact. So it's not a bad thing, but you have to learn how to like, what do you do about it? And one of the things that we talk about is like helping people recognize what is fighting for, what's competing with all of your time, effort, energy, and resources, what's pulling it in all these different directions. You have to be able to take inventory and say, what's helping me move towards my dreams and what's not. And some of you are like, well, all of it. No, that's not true. Take some time to actually take inventory. What's helping you move towards your dreams and what's not? And you got to give yourself permission to let go of the things that are not. I know it's a great idea. I know. And I bet, you know, if that was someone's call, it would turn into something amazing. But if it's not helping you move towards your dreams, you got to let it go. And then what remains, you've got to bring into alignment so it's all moving in the same direction. Because then if you've worked on your mind, you've got a dope inner circle and your heart's full of gratitude, you'll have so much momentum. This idea of stepping into your dream won't be this far off, distant concept. It'll be like, I wake up every day and step into my dream. And life will throw me curveballs and bad things will still happen and circumstances still shift and change. But I've done the mindset work. I've got the right people close to me and I've brought alignment to the things that I'm giving my time, effort, energy, and resources to. I have so much momentum that those things don't stop me. They actually become fuel for my fire, for the passion, for what I'm called to do with my life.
That's awesome, Jason. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I want to ask you one more question here. We just had a great conversation. I know we could go on for a long time on this. It's fun when you can get in the space of like-minded individuals. It's like there's no end to this conversation, but unfortunately we do have to end it at some point, right? Sadly. Mm-hmm. What have you learned about yourself in this journey? What's been your biggest takeaway for you?
Oh man, the biggest takeaway for me, and I think if you're listening to this, I think it's probably true for a lot of you, and I hope you hear what I'm about to say. I didn't recognize my own value for a long time. I allowed other people to tell me what my value was. And I allowed other people and circumstances and life itself to shape and push me and form me into this little box. And what I wish I knew earlier that I know now that I've learned on this journey, and I'm learning, okay, so let's make that clear. I'm learning still my value. And if you're listening to this, you know the loudest voice in your head is your mistakes, labels people put on you, shame that you carry for something that maybe happened to you or that you did, all those loud voices. But what I want you to hear right now from me is that you matter. You are valuable. There is no one else like you. You are a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, and the world will never encounter you after you. And you need to leave a mark on this earth. You need to walk in your purpose, step into your dream, and do the thing you were created to do. You are valuable.
Thank you, Jason. That is so awesome. I'm all inspired now. So great. You're doing good stuff. You're doing good stuff. And I'm happy to see that you've been able to take, like I said, in the very beginning, when I mentioned this, be able to take your adversity and use that for a good cause to help, other people and spread your message. And hopefully, it touches the right people that it needs to touch. So,
yeah.
All right. So I want to ask you some fun questions. We're going to mix this up just a little bit. We're going to get off.
Okay,
we're going to get off of the, not that none of this was fun. It was all really good, but I got to do some fun off the cuff questions here. No plan questions. So, all right. So, I want to know what your favorite guilty pleasure food is. What's your favorite all-time junkie food?
So actually there's two. Can I share two of them?
You can share two.
I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. I could eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's my favorite thing ever to eat. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's like my snacky go-to. If I can get it, I'm getting it. And then for like food, like I lived in San Diego, California before I moved to Dallas. And in San Diego, Southern California, if you're not familiar, they have the most incredible, like actual Mexican food. Like I moved to Texas and there's a lot of, Tex-Mex and it's whatever. But in San Diego, the Mexican food is incredible. And they have this thing called the California burrito and it is banging. It's incredible. Like it's huge. It's like this. It's like enough calories for like 2 days. Okay. And it's carne asada and French fries and cheese, but not like the queso here, like just shredded cheese. Okay. And you can get guac or sour cream in it and salsa fresca. And I'm telling you, this thing is incredible. It's just amazing.
It's the bomb. It's so funny that
So
you even
good.
say that. We had a guy on our show that was from California way back when we launched this show. And we were talking about queso because they were like, we don't put queso on everything like you guys do in Texas. Queso is on everything. Like it is drizzled on everything. And you're over here, I'm over here thinking I'm hungry. I love Mexican food. I'm like, that burrito sounds so dang good.
Yeah. So if you can find some of that, if you're ever in the Flower Mound, Texas area, there's a taco shop that just opened up recently called Valerie's Tacos, and they're from San Diego. And so they offer the California burrito.
Oh, I might have to go check this out sometime. Maybe I can share it. I'll cut it up. It might be like a 5-day deal, but no, it sounds good. I'm hungry.
Hey, you're going to get addicted if you do it. I'm just warning you now.
That's so fun. That's so fun. All right. I had another one and I lost. Oh, this is a fun one. What's your first concert you ever attended?
First concert I ever attended? Man.
You can remember.
Let's see. Probably. Okay, so I didn't go to a lot of concerts because I just didn't. I don't know why. It wasn't a thing.
Gotcha.
Probably one in Philly. I was out in Philly and there's a big concert there with some really dope dancers. I was like, who are these guys? And this was, I don't remember who all the people were. I just remember like I was in Philly at the big arena and there was like pyrotechnics everywhere. And there was like fire coming out of the platform stage and like people were jumping around dancing. Goodness. I just had a great time. I was like 2 feet away. I was in the second row and I was like, yo, this fire is dope. Like I actually could get burned if I like reach out. This is awesome. I don't know.
That's so funny. You don't even know where you went. It just was great. You don't even know where you went. I'm like,
it was in Philly. It was just
like,
a good time. Because you got to remember too, like Jennifer, like a lot of that, you know, when I went to places like that, I wasn't in a good mind for a lot of those.
Yeah. Right.
You know, I was on some stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I wasn't doing great.
I understand. It's I always think this is a fun question. And it's great that you share it from that perspective, because if somebody listening to this may not be going, maybe they have a youngster or somebody that they know that is, you know what I mean? So I think the authenticity is what we want. So that's what makes it fun. All right. One last fun question I want to ask you. This is my favorite. I haven't asked it in a while. What is in your Amazon cart?
I don't keep things in my Amazon cart. I'm not one of those people.
You're good.
I am not one of those people. Listen,
you just buy it, you get it, and you're done.
Yeah, I'm like the typical dude when it comes to Amazon. I'm like a hunter. Like I go in, I know what I want, I get it, I make the purchase, I'm out. Like I just, that's not me. Do I have 1,000 TikTok drafts? Yeah, probably. But Amazon cart? No.
I don't keep much in my Amazon either. I'm pretty much the same way too. Like I just go, and if I'm going to get it, I buy it. But my son shares an account with me. And this is why I love asking this question, is because my whole thing has tons of saved stuff. And it's anything from car parts to pet supplies to hair stuff. I mean, and normally what happens is the minute I go to buy something, right, his list will start coming up and I have to do the save for later, save for later, save for later.
Oh no. Like, have you ever accidentally purchased a whole bunch of his things?
Actually, no, I don't think. I think I've been pretty good about, but we do sometimes have the credit card mixed up, because there's several different cards, and sometimes he'll charge it. I'll be like, dude, you just charged the Amex card. He's like, oops, I got to pay you back, So we have had that, but I've been pretty good about making sure I pay attention, like what goes through there. And I'm like, I feel like I shop at Amazon like every other day for something. It's like, we need, something doesn't show up in the grocery items. Amazon. We need like pet supplies, Amazon, so.
It's true. I mean, we use it almost daily too.
Yeah. Well, good for you. You don't, you get what you set out to get. There's no question. You just get it. You're done. It's over with. You don't have to think about it. It's a good way to be.
Boom.
Yep. I like it. Well, Jason, this has been awesome. It's been fun. So Jason, if our audience wants to learn a little bit more about you, get some information, where do we want to send them?
Yeah, so I am everywhere on social media at official Jason Queen. And you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook or, wherever, really. TikTok, doesn't matter. That's where all my content is. I have some stuff on YouTube, but If you're at a school and you're like, yo, I want this guy to come speak to my students, hit me up. You can go to officialjasonqueen.com and you can book that there. If you're an entrepreneur and you're like, yo, I vibe with you, I like your energy, and I think you might be able to help me, and you're interested in that, you can go to 4emindset.com. That's the number 4, letter E, mindset.com. And that's where we walk people through elevating their mindset, evaluating relationships, establishing clear direction, and executing the play, and really helping people move from where they are to where they want to go. But that's where you can find me. Those are my websites. That's my social. And man, I hope you follow. I hope you rock with me. And I hope I can inspire you to step into your dreams.
Awesome, Jason. Well, this has been so much fun. I do want to say thank you for your authenticity and vulnerability and willingness to share with our people. Enjoyed, learning about you and what you're doing. And of course, we do want to say to our listeners, if you enjoy the show, please be sure you give us a rating on iTunes, check us out on Facebook, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube. And Jason, did you want to add something? Because I kind of cut you off there.
Nope. If you're listening to this, I guess the last thing I'll say to you is there's always more. Listen, I don't care where you've been. I don't care what you've done. I don't care what's been done to you. There's always more. Come on, believe that, receive it for yourself, believe it, start to speak it, and start demonstrating it in your life, and it will become a reality.
Awesome. All right, we want to leave you guys with a final parting thought. In order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another. We will see you next time.